Welcome to Impact Factor, your weekly dose of commentary on a new medical study. I'm Dr. F. Perry Wilson. On March 27, 2018, in a nondescript room at the FDA, a woman stood before a panel of FDA advisors and told the heartbreaking story of how her son had died of a fentanyl overdose. She spoke of his struggles with withdrawal symptoms and how fear of withdrawal kept him from getting adequate treatment. She closed with this statement: I encourage you to consider approval of lofexidine for the purpose of alleviating and easing opioid withdrawal symptoms. She was one of 6 speakers at the open public hearing before the FDA Psychopharmacologic Drug Advisory Committee. Her travel and accommodations, she noted, were paid for by U.S. WorldMeds, the makers of lofexidine, which was being considered for FDA approval. It was formally approved for treatment of opioid withdrawal a few months later. What's going on? This scene, patients, advocates, drug companies presenting their comments to an FDA approval panel, is repeated every time a new drug is up for consideration. The open public hearing portion of the advisory panel meeting typically lasts an hour. Anyone can petition to speak, and in theory, if too many petitions are received, the FDA engages in a lottery. This seems good. The public should have a voice in these decisions, but this isn't what happens in practice, as this paper, appearing in the BMJ, makes clear. It turns out that individuals presenting at these open public hearings are often handpicked by the pharmaceutical company seeking approval, who may pay for travel, accommodations, and time. Individuals who speak are encouraged, but not required, to disclose these conflicts of interest. The paper examines the public transcripts of 14 meetings of the Psychopharmacologic Drugs Advisory Committee, which included 145 individual testimonies. Of those, around 40% reported a financial conflict of interest. Another 40% reported no conflict of interest, and 20% didn't mention conflict of interest at all. Not surprisingly, those disclosing a conflict of interest were much more likely to recommend the drug be approved compared to those without a conflict of interest. 82% of those with a conflict of interest recommended the drug compared to just 32% without. Now, of course, the FDA panel doesn't need to listen to these recommendations, but it's hard to imagine that the emotional appeals from patients and patient advocates don't make a difference. Of the 14 drugs examined, 11 are now FDA approved. One thing to make clear, I don't think the interpretation here is that people are changing their testimony because they're getting paid. Rather, Pharma is identifying individuals who are already predisposed to be favorable toward the drug and paying them. They know how to navigate the system, but the rest of us would be hard-pressed to figure out how to speak at one of these meetings. But if you're curious, I included a link in the transcript. Is there a better way? Well, the authors suggest the panels be presented with random video diaries from individuals who participated in the phase 3 trials. I'm not sure how workable this is. To me, it seems that Pharma should simply be prevented from paying people to testify, even if they are just covering travel expenses. The open public hearing was designed to let Americans have a say in the drug approval process. It seems like it would be more democratic without the corporate sponsorship. For Medscape, I'm Perry Wilson.